pro cyclists ride tens of thousands of kilometres each and every year, so it's vital that their cleats are set up correctly to ensure no injuries or any problems with knees whatsoever. But what's talked about less and less is actually the choice of cleats by the riders and how tight their pedals are when it comes to disengaging. So let's ask some of the riders what they use and how tight their pedals are. Come on.
I use red cleats fixed, so I've been fixed my whole career. It's more for the sprint. It's more obviously any amateur. I wouldn't recommend being fixed cleats. It's there's a bigger risk of kind of injury. But in a sprint, the amount of you want to be fixed. I've always wanted to feel kind of one with the bike. I'm from the track. When you track, you want to be part of the bike, and fixed cleats are the best way to do that.
So for your mechanic, Kenny, you've got one of the best in the business there. For when he's got to change your cleats, that's quite an important job.
I do it myself. I've always done my cleats myself. That's something you touch, and you can measure it as much as you want, but even shoes kind of change over time. Just cleats, they wear down. Every time you clip in, clip out, they wear. So it's important to kind of measure to about the same. I always draw around them. I measure them, I put them on, and then you still have to micro adjust. So my first couple of rides, I'll always take a 4mm Allen key with me and adjust them a bit. So.
Now, Bram, I've just noticed you're using yellow cleats with a bit of black. Is that just to match the kit, or is it because they're suitable for you?
No, actually it is. Yeah.
Just to match the kit.
You see that?
Oh, this guy can stretch, can't he?
Yeah, only this side. That side is done.
So why have you gone for yellow cleats?
No, they are a little bit more like you can move them a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think for the muscles, when when you crash or a little, to the left side on the bike or the right side, it's still you can move your feet, so it's better for injuries. Let's say that, and yeah, I want to have a little bit comfort. Yeah.
Have you ever tried the other colours?
That's a really long time ago. I think. I've tried them once, and then I got knee problems. Yeah. But that was 30 years ago or something.
30 years ago? He doesn't look 30, does he?
And then only I'm 32 now.
He started young. What can we say?
Yeah.
So, Toms, I've just had a look. You're using yellow cleats on your Shimano pedals. Why have you gone for yellow?
I like the float on the yellow ones because sometimes, especially, it's a little bit of pain to get them precisely. So if you have the reds, you have no float, and it's a little bit more risk of getting knee injury or something. So if you have the yellows, you have some leeway, and your knee feels better, at least for me.
Cool, and you've never tried the other ones just to see about that totally fixed position?
I have, yeah. I have tried the red ones and didn't love them.
For me, the best one is the blue one, because for me the yellow it moves too much for me, and the red one is not so good because you need to put really perfect. And for me, is the best option is the blue one.
Okay. And have you used blue for a long time, or have you ever used the yellow or red? Have you trialed with them?
I try in the beginning with the red, but the red is impossible for me, and then the yellow, I feel my power is not so good in the pedal, so I prefer at the finish I prefer the blue one.
Okay, and how about the tension of the pedals? Are they quite tight or loose or in the middle?
Much as possible, not in the top, but much as possible. But I feel better now with the. I don't have afraid to put out when I make the sprints.
And why have you gone for blue and not yellow or red? Is it your favourite colour, or is there some science?
It's the favourite colour of my son.
Oh.
No, it's just we made some research with the bike positioning guys, and they suggested me to change. Before I was always with red, so the fixed one. And now I have some clearance, not too much, but some opportunity to choose the position, the body can choose the position he wants. So.
And how about the tension on your pedals? Do you have it quite high for the sprints, or do you keep it in the middle?
I have it really high, so almost as high as you can.
So Nathan, I've just had a look. You're using blue cleats. Why have you gone for blue?
Because the yellows are too soft, and I've tried the red ones before, and but it gave me really sore muscles everywhere. So they didn't really fit me very well. So I think it depends from rider to rider for which cleats you use.
I'm using the black ones from Look. They give me just the best hold, and that's, as a sprinter, very important.
Have you ever used grey or red, or have you always used the black ones?
I've used grey, but for my feeling, it's not really, I prefer to have less comfort and more hold in the cleats than the other way around.
Yeah. Now, I've just looked at your pedals. I can't see how many Newton meters the release is on them. Do you know what it is? Is it quite a strong hold?
It's these ones should be around 22 or 25. I'm not sure anymore, but yeah.
That's important for a guy like you, kicking out a lot of watts.
Exactly.
So, Elia, first of all, happy birthday. And I notice you're using yellow shoe cleats. Why do you use yellow and not blue or red?
Yeah, I become pro in 2010, and from that year, for 8 years, I use Speedplay. So Speedplay, if you know, also if you put all the, if you try to close as much as possible, you have a really little bit of small movement. So for that, after 8 years, I always ride with a little bit of movement, and the only way to go back to the normal pedal from Speedplay is use the yellow cleats. So maybe now I can step to the blue one next year, and but the first step from Speedplay to Shimano is for me is the only way use the yellow cleats with a little bit of move. So it's the move I don't feel on the sprint.
And when you want to take your foot out of the pedal, is it quite tight, or do you have it medium or loose?
I have medium, so on the free line of the pedal I put on medium. You don't go out with the pedal during the sprint, for example, but always a good one if you need to take off the pedal, the shoes quickly, you can do. So yeah, half is my choice.
So Bert, just had a look at your shoes. You're using black cleats. Why have you gone for that one?
It's very stiff and you don't have movement when you touch the pedal, so it's good for me.
Have you ever used any of the other colours to try them out?
Yeah, 4 years ago I used grey ones, but black ones I prefer.
And do you have quite a lot of tension on the pedals as well to keep you in there?
Yeah, I think just normal, but it's good because when you crash you don't have to got a lot of tension, because otherwise you stay on the bike and it's not good. You know.
So Alex, what cleats are you using, mate?
The Look grey ones.
Why have you gone for grey and not black or red?
I sort of swap between black and grey. It doesn't really, the float, I don't ever use the float actually, because I actually ride with my heels pressed in. Yeah. So I pedal like a duck. So for me, it's about having my heels as close to the crank as possible without touching the crank.
Cool. And would you ever be tempted to go to the black ones then? Because you don't use the float, so it's quite interesting that you don't.
I have used the black ones, but because it's whatever I've got sat at home, to be honest. It's, it doesn't sound very professional, but because it doesn't make a blind bit of difference whether they're grey or black. It really, like, I could use the red and it wouldn't make a difference either.
Yeah, so you're just fixing that position really, aren't you? Yeah. So Julian, I've seen you on the front of a peloton for I don't know how many hours, I dread to think. But what I don't know about you is what cleats you use. Which ones are you using?
I'm using the blue ones, so blue Shimanos. Yeah, you can rotate them a little bit, so I feel a little bit more comfortable with them, because otherwise if you're you have also the other ones were really fixed, and but then you need to get used to also the knees and all that, because then it has to be perfect, and I prefer to have a little bit of rotation. I think for the joints and all that, it's a little bit better.
Have you ever used the totally fixed ones or not?
Maybe a long time ago I did, but then I was still riding Luke, and No, I feel comfortable with those ones, and I know when you get older, it's always for the muscles and all that. It's
he's not that old.
Yeah, not yet, but I'm riding already a while with those type of shoes. So no, but I'm good at them, and I always give them to my brother to fix them. He put the cleats on that, and so I'm fine. I'm relaxed.
Cool. So your brother, he's the guy who sets them up for you. He does all the measuring.
Yeah, he does the bike fitting and the measuring of the cleats. So it's really important because I don't like to change also a lot, because it's always like, it's millimeters, and your body is used to, because we're riding hours and hours on the bike, and if you do, then if it's a little bit different, you feel it straight away. So it's really important that. That's done quite well, and it's easy that I got my brother now. He does it, so I don't have to go far for that, and I trust him 100%.
Cool. So there we are, brotherly love. Love that. What colour cleats do you use?
Yellow on the Shimano pedals.
Okay, and why have you gone for yellow and not red or blue? It's not just because you like the colour, is it?
No, it's because then I still can move my feet a little bit during training and races. Because if it's forced your legs into not a good position for like 6 hours long maybe, then I think it's not so good. So now I still can move it, but I put my pedals on the most firm stance, and then so it's not too loose, but it's firm, and
nice,
but I can still move it.
What's your reason for choosing those?
Like just fits me the best.
And have you ever used any of the different options to see about some extra float, or are you just happy with the black ones?
With Shimano, I was using the one with 3 degrees. I think like the middle version, but with a look here, their mid option is even more float, and here I find the black one better, which for me I would call a 1 degree.
Okay, there we are, 1 degree float. Why are you using the blue ones?
It gives a little bit of range and a bit of movement, but it's still fixed. And yeah, I think we don't have to talk much about it. It's like it is the best pedal out there and the best system. And I prefer blue ones. If you have like a little bit of flow, go to yellow, and then it's still red. So I go in the middle and never had any issue.
There we are, middle of the road, but he's certainly not a middle of the road rider. So here at the Dubai Tour, the most popular pedal types that we've seen in the peloton are from Look and Shimano. So let's go and take a look at their pedal cleats as well as the tension release systems. Come on. So riders who are using Look's pedals either go for the Blade model or the Keo Classic, really. Now, the Blade doesn't use a traditional spring to maintain pressure on a rider's cleat. Instead, it uses a blade of carbon. So how does that work? Well, the blade is inserted into the bottom of the pedal, and that essentially keeps the cleat in tension. So basically there's 2 separate tensions, either 12 or 60 Newton meters. That comes as standard. However, there is a 20 Newton meter additional piece that you can purchase. So that determines really how much force is required to enter as well as exit the pedal. Whereas the Look Keo pedals, they actually use a spring to maintain the tension of the cleat, both entering and releasing from the pedal. And it's adjusted via a hex wrench here on the back plate. Now, the tensions that you can adjust are between 8 and 12 Newton meters. And the most popular model of Shimano's pedals we see are the SPDSL, and in particular the Dura Ace 9100 model. How do they work? Well, they're very similar to that of the standard Look Keo in that the tension is adjusted with an Allen key to increase or decrease the tension required to either enter or exit the pedal. How much torque is required though? I don't know, as Shimano don't actually list that on their website. So now for the actual cleats. Look offer 3 different types of cleat, but what does that really mean? Well, with Look, it means you have a certain amount of degrees of heel movement or float per cleat. So in turn, that really allows you to move your knees a small amount. So let's start actually with the black cleat. That actually has 0 float, so you're going to get totally locked into position there. So that's the sort of cleat you'd expect a sprinter to use, for instance. And then with a grey cleat, they give 4.5 degrees of float at the heel, and the red cleat, finally, that gives 9 degrees of movement, which is quite a lot. For Shimano, they offer 3 cleat options too. Firstly, the Shimano red cleats, they're totally fixed in position and with no heel movement whatsoever. Then we have a blue option, which they offer 2 degrees of float in the heel, and that's something that actually professional riders requested. So that comes as standard with the R9100 pedals that we were looking at. Yellow cleats, they allow some lateral movement, and the pivot point of these cleats is actually in the centre of the cleat. They do this by having a narrower front section of the cleat where it engages into the pedal. The amount of float in those cleats is 6 degrees. So that allows you basically to have some movement in the front of the shoe as well as the rear. So there we are, some interesting choices by the riders there. And I never knew that Mark Cavendish fitted and replaced his own cleats. Learn something new every day. Let me know though, what cleats you use and why down there in the comments below. And also I want to know how tight you have your release set. And remember as well to like and share this video with your friends. And for a video on why pro riders don't slam their stems, click down here.